Hi, my name is Paul Stafford. I'm Director of the Foundation course at Kingston University. I want to show you something. I want to show you a folder of a student of ours on the course at the moment. And the reason I want to show you the folder is I want to show you how a student gets onto this foundation course, the kind of work that gets someone onto our course, and the kind of work we expect to see in a folder prior to students' interview. So I'll come to her sketchbooks in a minute, but these formed part of her application when she applied to us last year, before she came on the course. So this is her entire portfolio that came to us last January, like all the rest of the students that applied to our foundation course. I'll come to these in a minute, but I just want to go through the folder itself. I think firstly it opens really nicely. I don't know what these objects are first of all, but I quite like it. It's a very colourful page, I think, quite interesting page. It's kind of resting as you open the portfolio, so that's a good tactic in my view to get the prospective member of staff looking at the folder working in a way. It's resting as you open the page. We go through some 3D work. Obviously these are made of latex. She's been on the floor of some forest somewhere, hasn't she? There's bits of acorns, bits and pieces of wood around here. I quite like it. It goes well with the piece of work here, the photograph of some of these objects. Good use of materials. I think, so I'm interested. It's a good way to start the folder work. I think she's telling us what's going on here, which is kind of interesting. She's been down to the Thames Embankment. I think she must have done one of our short courses, because last year one of our staff took people down to the Thames Embankment, picking up all sorts of things that were found around, in fact near Tate Modern, on the shorefront there of the Thames. So I like that, and nice use of photography. I quite like the documentation of the objects she's found. Some nice things, some bits of metal, bits of bone and stuff in her photo. So interesting, I think. She started to draw them, so that's quite good, you know, evidence of some kind of drawing skill in here, looking at the objects themselves, telling us what she's been going on. Quite like this, a photograph of a drawing of a dog. It reminds me of those Hockney drawings, you know, of his dog. And I like that, bit of personal work in the folder, drawing of my lurcher and brown Indian ink, telling us what's going on. I like it, a bit of personal inflection of the work, you would say. She goes on to show us a silk painting of a rotting gourd, particularly a bit of a boring drawing, really, you might say, but showing us a range of materials again, so that's kind of interesting for us to see. She must have connected back to her forest project here, because here she is in the forest. Pen and Ink's studies near Chiswick, must be where she lives. So okay, she's gone back to the first project, she's been to the forest floor again. She's looking to use a range of materials. They're not the best drawings in the world, I don't think, but they're okay. She's then taken her drawings to printmaking, which is quite good, I think, using photography as well. So again, a range of different materials is good for us to see. More printmaking, looking at cliffs in Cornwall, she tells us down here. So again, more evidence of a range of approach, so that's quite nice to see. Again, more printmaking work, working with colour on top of prints, expanding her range of work to do with that forest project. So, you know, underlying the fact that she can do things, she carries on with the project. I quite like that. She's done a collage of a typical still life, you might say. Looks like a sheep's skull, bits and pieces knocking around. So okay, it's not a fantastic drawing, I don't think, but again it pursues the point that she's trying to arrange the materials, you would say. Similarly here, collage. It's not fantastic, is it? I mean, it's kind of why, in my view, this folder's 7.5. The folder starts off well, I think. It's starting to reach a mid-ground now where it's getting a bit dull. Actually, the drawing's not fantastic, but it's alright. Showing a range of materials. She's obviously they've told us to put some life drawing in here. It's not great life drawing, is it? You have to say. And when you look at the next life drawing, it's actually incorrect. You know, if I was working with a student with this drawing, I'd be saying to the student, actually, what's happening behind this hand? Because if I take the logic of these lines and where they would progress to with that hand away, that line somehow comes down here, this line comes in here, and so this model has got a great big hole in his body here. You know, it's hidden by this hand. So it's not actually a great drawing. So at this point in this folder, I'm getting a bit bored of it really. It's starting to dip down, I'm starting to lose interest. I'm looking at technical deficiencies here because it's not a great drawing. And she's only got 2 life drawings in here. So if someone said to her to put some life drawings in, these must have been her best 2. So I'm kind of thinking, well, actually it's not good enough to be called for interview. And remember, this is a student who's got 3 A's at A level, who's referenced from the school, was saying that she was the best thing since sliced bread. So in my view now, at this part of the folder, it's about 5.5, 6 maximum. So it's not going to be called for interview if 7.5 is the kind of threshold, you would say. Only girl photographs, okay, they're nice photographs, but you know, everyone can pick up a digicamera now, can't they? The whole world can develop a print digifilm, so it's interesting, I guess, but it's not stunning, I don't think, is it? We go on to this page. I quite like this page. That must be a dog again. I quite like that. It reminds me of that drawing earlier on. So a clever placement in the folder, in a sense. That must be the Eiffel Tower, mustn't it? Looking from underneath. I like that bit of composition, actually. It's my favourite photograph in here. She's been to some interesting places, so that's kind of interesting to see. She's actually got quite a good eye for composition. You know, look at this. Look at this. So I'm starting to get re-engaged with the folder again, really, at this point. We go on. She starts to make pieces of sculpture, but I don't think they're pieces of sculpture, really. I think they're pieces of architecture. And in here she talks about spheres, light, qualities of materials. She's talking like a sculptor, but in my view, there's much more in here to do with really interior design, maybe bits of architecture. And look at this. Look at this photograph here. And look at this photograph here. You know, the photograph of the Eiffel Tower. She's looking at very, very similar things. Appears to have some kind of interest in structure per se. So I'm starting to get re-engaged with this folder again now, really. I like these objects. I don't think they're sculpture. I think they're something else. We go on. She starts to play around a bit more. And look what she starts to talk about. Habitation, natural materials used for dwelling, spheres made from woven wire or willow. She's talking herself about natural materials, talking about habitation, talking about these not being pieces of sculpture, more about a space to live. It's more architectural, in a sense, than it is to do with sculpture. I'm thinking at this point, maybe she's got maths as some kind of background, but her A-level regime hasn't got maths in it. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if the student wasn't wanting to do something to do with interior design or architecture as the next career progression. Similar project, she's taken the project into different materials now. She's looking at Leonardo da Vinci. What a great thing to say to us. She looks at a context for her work. And here she is playing about with that same kind of interior space things. There are those who would think these are bits of sculpture, but they're not in my view. They're bits of interior design. They're bits of architecture, because I think that's what she's interested in. What a beautiful page of photographs. Going right back to her forest project. Lovely use of these little acorn that she's found in the forest floor. Beautiful pieces of jewellery, real simple things to do. What a beautiful page. And I'm really right engaged with this folder again now, from being a bit bored in the middle looking at those life drawings, which were in my view incorrect. Well, they were incorrect. To a place now where she's using great materials, she's using back to her forest project in a really interesting way. And I'm back engaged, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, fine, this is interesting. Here we are, look. Must have looked at Anish Kapoor, mustn't she? The Indian sculptor we all know that had that great piece of work in Tate Modern. She must have looked at him because look at the pigmentation here. Very different to this kind of natural work she's doing earlier. You know, his work, Indian sculpture, there's lots of high-end pigments, cadmium reds, yellows, bright blues the whole time, looking back to his culture. And here she is, using the same kinds of things. So what a nice range of practice. And we go to the final sheet of work. And look what she's doing here. We talked before about architecture, about maybe a hell of a maths, and look what she says down here. Collaborative acrylic canvas painting on a theme of physics. So tying back to, must have been a GCSE regime, back to that and look, producing these great big lovely paintings, producing the set designs for her school play, showing us where her interests lie. And so for me, as an end game, I think what a great and interesting folder at the end. It really picks up, it's really well put together. And from an initial stage of being interesting, to that mid-stage of being really a bit dull with technical problems, to an end game where I think, fine, the girl's a very interesting student. I go for secondary information, I go to the sketchbooks just to confirm that she's got her own ideas. These are the two that she sent from school, and so I looked up for confirmation and I flicked through them. It takes me 2 minutes. I'm seeing back to her project, I'm seeing a girl, look at, this is a photograph of the Eiffel Tower again. Deconstruct the way the tower was normally viewed. How interesting. Back to the notion of architecture again. She's writing, she's looking, she's writing all the time in these sketchbooks. Look at this. Terrific, terrific. Looking at artists for the context of her work. Talking, telling us about her world, telling us the things that she's interested in. And the other sketchbook is the same as that. Look at it. full of ideas, people that she likes, people she's debating, and I think, fine, get the girl on board, get the girl in for interview, get the girl into Kingston. And so we saw her, obviously, and she's now a student on our course. I worked with her myself, actually. It's very interesting, because she did a project for me. It was all about architecture. It's all about 3D design. It's all about interior space. And that's what she's chosen to do next term. And so she never thought that when she came. She thought she was a fine artist, you know. And she's not that at all. This girl's a designer per se. And that's been proven through the whole first stage of this foundation course. And I think that's a really good example of a student's work. To get onto this course, 7.5, not the best form of work in the world, you would say, but not the worst either, from a very bright, very intelligent, very good and able student.